Lisa and I have been together for about 5 years. We met when we were both going through divorces. At first, they were just friends. They went to concerts and spent time together. Then it grew into the bedroom, and now it's complete love. She is my only one, even if this is the second time. She is my love, and she is so damn sexy, she drives me crazy. Now a little about us. We are no longer young, but we are still good looking. She just turned 51 at 5'4" and 130 pounds. She still has an amazing ass, beautiful natural 34C breasts. She is a red-haired Irish Jersey girl with eyes that stop me in my tracks, an amazing laugh and a sassy smile, which does not tolerate objections. Since we met through divorces, we were open and frank with each other from the very beginning. We talked about what went wrong, how we felt, what we wanted, and what we didn't want. They discussed the fact that she had not had sex for a long time, like me more than a year, almost 18 months, and she had even longer. I opened up to her about my love for sex, nude beaches, and experimenting with same-sex relationships, which interested me. When we finally had sex, it was incredible. Over time, she began to enjoy being naked at my house, and we never wore swimsuits in the pool. She quickly accepted my new house rule. Every time you bend over, your butt must be facing me. At first she laughed, but then she made it her rule and added that this is now not only a household rule, but a rule for any place. After that, I persuaded her to try a nudist beach. I couldn't wait to see her naked body there and watch all the men stare at her with lust. Not surprisingly, my fears were unfounded. She enjoyed the nudist beach as if it was her second home. Except for holidays with children, we no longer go to regular beaches. Over time, our sex life at home got better. We started going to the beach more often, and we even started trying sex with other couples. It fueled my lust, and even though I'm 57, she keeps me horny 24/7. I started asking her to bend over on the beach more often, to spread her legs slightly, to let me apply lotion to her, while everyone around me watched me rub her breasts and her whole body. And then she applied lotion to me, paying special attention to my manhood. Earlier this year, just after Christmas, we went to the beach again. I'm always looking for opportunities to find people to communicate with, to observe them, and for them to observe us. One day, we met a man our age, in excellent physical shape, with long hair. A very nice guy named Paul. He was very polite and showed sympathy for Lisa from the very beginning. We were talking about all these strange guys on the beach, and he said he knew exactly what we were talking about. He even gave them nicknames. We told him about some of our pranks, and he shared his stories of having fun on the beach or other things. He constantly admired Lisa's butt, her breasts, and said that it was clear that she had been playing sports for a long time, which she really did in D1 college. She played 2 sports at once, and then played tennis for many years. A few visits later, on one not-so-pleasant day at the beach, there was a lot of wind, and not many people around. There were only a few single guys around, and a group of 3 funny black girls sitting about 15 feet behind us celebrating a birthday dressed as Adam and Eve. I was excited, so I sat down in front of Lisa and asked her to spread her legs so that I could satisfy myself. She was nervous, but she let me have fun. Then I said I had to taste her. I leaned over and started pleasuring her. It was so hot, I couldn't even imagine that she was capable of such a thing. As we started getting ready, I asked her to strike a few poses, leaning over to take some pictures. She surprised me by getting down on all fours, with her ass facing the guys and her side facing the black girls, and spread her ass for me, allowing me to take some photos. And then it was even more fun to watch her walk to the car almost the entire way in just a t-shirt that barely reached the top of her butt, so her butt was completely visible. The expressions on people's faces in the park and in the parking lot were very funny, and this excited us even more. Now I realized that not only do I have a sexy hot thing, but I also have a little bit on display. So the very next day, we were at the beach again, and on the way out of the parking lot, we saw a group of black girls. They greeted us and thanked us for a great show the night before. These were the same girls who sat behind us and saw how I satisfied my wife and then how we satisfied ourselves. We all laughed, thanked them, and moved on. A little later, when we were already settled in our place, our friend Paul walked by. And of course, he couldn't miss the opportunity to talk to a sexy naked woman, so he stopped and joined us. I think he liked being with us because he knew we would discuss sex. And I suspect he knew that Lisa liked it when he talked about her body and touched himself in front of her, and that he could make her even bolder. Or at least he thought so, and he also knew that I like it too. So, just like the previous day, at some point we started talking again about her big, sweet, juicy ridges and how much I love them. She blushed, but she loved hearing him talk to me about her breasts, admire their beauty, and then smile at her and say the same thing. Then he asked if he could touch them. I was terribly excited and thought that she would answer. Let me describe the situation. I sit in the chair next to her. We both face west to receive the sun's rays. I'm on her left side, about a foot away from her, in our beach chairs. There aren't many people around, not right next to us, but about 20 feet away. Paul sits to her right, facing her right side, and about 3 feet away. Let me back up a little. When we first met Paul, the conversation was about strange guys walking along the beach, trying to stare at women's butts, trying to find someone to stare at. We knew about them, but we didn't really care as long as they kept their distance and didn't bother us. But when they saw us applying lotion to each other, some of them, noticing that Lisa was sitting with her legs spread for me or seeing how she occasionally stroked me, began to come too close and stare. Paul told us how these types spoil the atmosphere on the beach, saying that many women want to play and show themselves, but these guys just ruin everything with their intrusiveness. He said that if they just picked a spot, sat quietly, smiled, and maybe talked to someone as they passed by on the way to the water, they would have a better chance of meeting people and maybe getting something. And so, that day, Paul said that he saw several of these types like us. Lisa complained about them and said that it was a pity that they could not be like Paul. Look normal, be pleasant, friendly. She also loved that he talked about how sexy and hot she was, and that he always asked if he could sit next to us, if he could come closer, or if he could join us under the umbrella. She later admitted that she wanted him to touch her breasts, knowing the way he looked at her and talked about her, and that she was willing to tell him yes when he asked politely. So she not only liked it, but she wanted it. I think she even began to hope that he would be on the beach when we got there. So here we sit, me to her left, discussing her large breasts, Paul sitting to her right. He agrees with me. I reach out and tease her left breast. She smiles as he and I discuss her body like she's not there. And suddenly he leans over and not only agrees with me, but also asks her politely if he can touch them. She smiles at him, biting her finger, and says, "Of course." And now he is touching and kneading her right breast. In broad daylight, on the beach, and there are people around. I was absolutely delighted and secretly hoped that it would go even further. I wonder how far she is willing to go. God, I was horny and drooling. Paul told her how nice her natural breasts were and that he preferred them to be artificial, and said that he wanted to feel them from the first day he met us. She also looked at him, smiling, while he said, enjoying the fact that she was on a nude beach in the sun with two guys fondling her breasts, and listening to both of us tell her how hot and sexy she was. While he was doing this, she smiled and then looked down and saw him stroking himself. And I think she liked it. She secretly knew that she would have a submissive side towards her, and was happy he saw it and played on it. And I liked it. Being so horny, I continued the conversation as I stood up and stood in front of her to take a photo of her sitting there with another man fondling her breasts and stroking himself in the middle of the day on a public beach. I have completely lost my love for having my own personal prostitute. In fact, as I knelt down in front of her, I expressed exactly that thought to him, and he agreed. We sat and discussed how women weren't as open and easy and sexy when we were younger, and that now having a sexy girl who loves sex, wants sex, and does slutty things is hot. I told him how I loved other guys seeing her naked, and how I loved watching other men have sex with her, and he loved it, saying how much he loved a woman like that. I told him that having her as my prostitute was hot, not humiliating, that I wanted her to own her sexuality and do and be what she wanted. Men always did this and were admired for having women and wanting sex, and I thought it was very cool for her too. I then decided to see if I could do it even better, and as I knelt in front of her on the sand, she was still sitting in her chair, and he was now literally next to both of us. We sat there chatting peacefully until this thought came to me, an idea on how to make our communication more, well, let's say, lively. Of course, it's not that I planned some crazy turn of events, but there is a moment when everything goes as usual, and you just give in to the flow. At that moment, with a half-serious smile, I looked at him and said, "So, have you seen her?" My tone was quite light, almost friendly, but with a hint of something more. It was one of those questions for which you don't expect any particular answer, but anticipation begins to grow inside you. The answer did not take long to arrive. He, slightly slyly squinting, looked at both of us and said with a slight grin, "Oh, a glimpse here and there, very much so." And at that moment, as if by magic, everything changed. The atmosphere became different. It wasn't that it was something overt, but a certain vibration was clearly felt, as if an invisible force was taking over to give our communication a new, more intriguing shade. And of course, I, being the person who could not help but support such a game, turned up the heat. "Show him," I said to her with a half smile. She looked at me with an expression that was a mixture of slight bewilderment and embarrassment, but despite this, she slowly began to act. It was as if something inside her had awakened, and she, perhaps without even fully realizing what she was doing, went for it. And now, my dear, the most interesting part of our scene began. It was as if the whole world stopped for a few seconds, and we found ourselves in the center of this magical pause. Everything that was happening around us, the sound of the waves, the screams of children in the distance, the smell of sunscreen disappeared, and we found ourselves in our own little universe. At the center of this universe was she, who was becoming more and more immersed in what was happening, as if she was entering the role that she had chosen for herself. And I, don't be a fool, decided to heat up this moment even more. "See," I told him with a wink. "Amazing, isn't it?" It was that moment when our eyes met, and I saw admiration mixed with surprise in his eyes. It was as if he didn't believe his eyes, didn't believe that all this was really happening. But does it really matter whether he believed or not? The only important thing was that what was happening captured us all, pulled us into this strange, almost magical game in which none of us knew how it would all end. At that moment, I noticed how her embarrassment slowly but surely disappeared. She became more and more bold, and her smile became wider. And so, instead of being shy, she began to look at us with some new, almost playful expression on her face. It was as if she herself was shocked by what she was doing, but could not stop. This was the moment when control of the situation began to slip away, but none of us thought it was a problem. We were like three actors in an improvisational play that unfolded on its own. And then, to my delight, he also succumbed to this strange but exciting feeling. The attempt to maintain control seemed somehow awkward, almost inappropriate. "Wow, this is incredible," he said, and of course I couldn't resist teasing him. "You have no idea how much," I said, smiling. It seemed that the tension was growing with every minute, and now the three of us found ourselves in the center of this heated moment. No more doubts, just play. And when the atmosphere heated up to the limit, it all turned into a bright flash of emotions. We both watched her, as if spellbound, as she finally surrendered to her feelings. It was the moment of truth, the moment when everything around disappeared and only the three of us remained. And so, when everything calmed down, when the tension subsided, we sat, looking at each other, slightly surprised, slightly satisfied, but with a slight feeling, what was that? I won't say it was an ordinary day at the beach. Oh no, it was a day that we will all remember for a long time as one of those strange but amazing events that happen once in a lifetime. Who would have thought that things would get so out of control? Accident? Fate? Or just beach magic? Who knows? But one thing is for sure, it was a day we will not forget. When we all lost our minds and realized what we had just done. We all laughed, and then Paul and I started telling her how hot it was and describing what we liked and how much we liked her being so slutty. On the way home, I had fun asking her how she liked it when he saw her like this, how she loved it, and how she felt so naughty on the beach. When we got home, we had sex like teenagers on a weekend away from their parents. So, only a week has passed since the last trip, where she had truly depraved fun for the first time. I've been very horny all week and could barely sleep last night, knowing we were going to a nude beach today. I wonder if she'll be in a naughty mood, if our friend Paul will be there. Will he push her further? Will she push herself further? Will she want to go further? Did she want to please him, serve him, and show him more of herself? To let him know that she is ready to be slutty like the girls he liked, knowing how much I love and support her, and how much I want to see her as a complete prostitute. To do anything that will make him okay. Did she want to see him there? Did she hope he would be there? Did she look forward to meeting him? Did she already know that she would do whatever he wanted? Did she like knowing that he had such power over her? Was she doing it for me, for him, or for herself? I wonder if she was already horny before we left the house, or if she became horny when we were walking on the beach, or only when she saw him. Either way, a lot is running through my head. For me, I loved that she let go, embraced her inner easygoing woman, and let it out. I loved that she listened to what I asked her to do, listened to my fantasies and desires. And I loved how easily he was able to get her to do what I had been trying to get her to do for over a year. How could he speak to her so rudely but politely? And she hung on every word. So we go out to the beach and go to where we usually sit. Didn't see him, was a little upset, but still glad to be there, and there were a few hot couples and single guys nearby, so I knew I'd be pleased watching her undress in front of them, enjoying the way she bends down to put down the towel and chair, watching to see who is looking at what. My favorite part of visiting a nude beach is watching people when they arrive and seeing them take their clothes off. Some just throw their clothes and sit, others deliberately show it off, and I love them for it. Tease, 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 please. Plus, I like to see how they look. Some come in perfect outfits to the nines, take off their clothes, and nothing special. Others come in relaxed, worn out, take off their clothes and say, "Wow, look at your butt or your chest or between your legs." I am both an avid voyeur and somewhat of an exhibitionist. Once we're all set and ready, I ask her to apply lotion on me. I love it when she does my whole body. I'm someone who hates burns and wants to protect my skin, so I usually don't leave the house without turning 30. But she learned early on that I would still ask her to give my cover back when we got there, just to see who was watching. Especially when she bends over to work my shins one day, she sat down and I told her, we need to give them a show, bend over to work the shins. She never fails, and now she does it consciously and willingly. And she knows that I usually try to turn to the right, so that when she bends over to work my leg, her ass is facing the hot couple or horny guy. I like to see the look on their faces. I need to get both legs, baby. Then I like it when she gets on her knees and rubs lotion on me. Generously. I love seeing guys watch and know that they would love to have her work their body. I mean rub lotion on them. What's also amazing is that the lotion we use seems to have more zinc added or something, and now it takes longer to rub in, which makes it harder for me. Plus, not only does she know I like it, but I think she secretly loves putting on a show too. Knowing that guys were watching her bend and rub, seeing her stroke me. Some wanted them to treat it, others wanted them to do the same to me. Next is her turn. I like to touch her sweet body with my hands. I usually start with her facing me, but make sure my back is turned to a nice couple or two, or some horny guys. I start with her shoulders and arms. Smile using sunglasses with a mirror to see who is looking. Then smile at her while rubbing her chest. Usually one or two guys check it out and adjust. I then kneel down so people can see her clearly as she automatically spreads her legs wider so I can reach her inner thighs and legs. I like to make sure others can see it. Then let's move on to her back and ass. I love her shoulders, and when she lifts her hands to move her necklace and hair away, I get a great view of her sexy shoulders and back. and I know those in front now have a great view of her uplifted breasts. The best part is for last. And what's even better is that I never asked her to do it, she started doing it herself. When it's time for me to work on her ass, I walk up to her, and she bends over with her legs straight and her hands on the chair or knees. Oh my God, I think she secretly enjoys putting on a show as much as I do, and I know she loves giving me what she knows I want, love and crave. I can't tell you the faces I've seen on some guys and couples when she bends over and I rub her butt cheeks. So, the lotion is ready, the exhibitionist performance is ready. Now I turn on the music, pour the drinks, and Paul comes up. She smiles. Why is she smiling? Lol, is she horny now? Now that he's there. Did she want to see him? Did she need to see him? Was she looking forward to meeting him? Does she want to go further? Does she want him to push her further? Or do I push her further? Or does she want me to let her be a prostitute? Who cares? I just love that she's doing it, and personally, I think that's what she wanted. I think she wanted to show off, to get permission to be the slutty woman she wants to be and knows I want her to be. Make him push her so she can do what he wants and not feel like she's doing it all herself. He sits with us for a bit, as usual, talking about life, the weather, and then immediately moves on to how hot her tits are and what a nice ass she has. He then talked about how hot it was last week. He asks if I like to see her stroking him. Yes, telling her that he's the same way, how he likes to see a woman release herself, how he likes to see if he can make a girl play, and how far he can make her go. And how does he know that I like it and want it? Because he is the same man. Then, after a few drinks for her and me, he doesn't drink. We're now talking about sex and partner swapping. And I tell her to show him that. She does just that. She smiles at him, and he smiles back. The sky was painted in soft shades of orange and pink, and it seemed as if the whole world had slowed down, matching the rhythm of the steady surf. The air was filled with the freshness of the sea and the subtle aroma of salt water, and the sand pleasantly warmed our feet. We sat on the sun loungers, relaxing a bit after a long day in the sun. The atmosphere was light and relaxed. Each of us felt absolutely comfortable in each other's company. The conversation touched on topics that are usually rarely raised in everyday life, topics of openness, trust, and sensuality. We talked about the importance of being honest and respecting each other's feelings, especially when it comes to personal boundaries and relationships. At some point, my friend, being always gallant, complimented her appearance. He didn't just notice how she looked, he emphasized how confident she seemed when she allowed herself to be herself. This confidence came from her with ease, and she was a little embarrassed as she laughed in response. She seemed to enjoy hearing these words, even though she was shy by nature. However, at that moment she looked truly happy, and her smile reflected that inner light that others like so much. We continued the conversation, moving from one topic to another. It was a rare opportunity to discuss things that are usually hidden behind the everyday worries and bustle of life. We joked, shared thoughts, and discussed how important it is in life to sometimes allow ourselves to be more open and relaxed. It is important not only to allow yourself to express your thoughts and feelings, but also to do so in a way that brings joy to others in order to maintain deep mutual understanding and respect for each other. These moments, when I could calmly talk about such topics, brought real pleasure. The sun slowly dropped below the horizon, painting everything around in soft, warm colors, and a feeling of serenity hung in the air. We sat, immersed in this quiet, almost meditative atmosphere, looking at the ocean, how its waters gently touched the shore, and discussed plans for the evening. It was nice to think about how we would spend the rest of the day, leisurely and without worries. It seemed that time had stopped, and only the soft rustling of the waves reminded me that life was going on as usual. There was a general atmosphere of lightness and joy on the beach. We heard the laughter and conversations of other vacationers who, like us, were enjoying the last hours of the day. These sounds merged with the sound of the waves, creating a quiet, relaxing symphony. Every breath of fresh sea air filled us with a feeling of freedom and peace. We decided to stay on the beach a little longer, enjoying every moment. The light sea breeze, refreshing us after a warm day, brought with it a feeling of peace. It was one of those rare moments when there are no responsibilities, haste, or worries, but there is only you, your friends, and the surrounding beauty of nature. So we sat there, just about to leave and pack up, thinking about how much fun it was watching her spread her legs for him, showing herself off, and knowing that he enjoyed watching her do it. I wonder if she wants this. Does she yearn to have sex with him? Does she secretly wish that he would ask her to have sex with her, knowing that she would agree if he asked? Anyway, we were almost getting ready, and she suddenly says she needs to go to the bathroom. Well, the waves were strong, and she didn't want to walk far to the toilet. So she just stood up, walked behind her chair, sat down on the sand, and started peeing. At this time, I turned around and folded my umbrella and my chair. Oh, we need to add one more detail. There was another couple sitting next to us at this point. Earlier, when we were discussing sex and partner swapping, apparently due to the wind and Lisa's loud voice, this black couple overheard our conversation. At some point, the guy came over and apologized for eavesdropping, saying that he and his girlfriend were in town for the weekend and wanted to see if there were any good clubs nearby. I smiled, realizing that not only had he heard her talk about sex and partner swapping, but from where they were sitting and where he now stood, he had a great view of her spread legs. So I wasted no time in asking if he wanted to find a club for dancing or for games. He blushed, and his girlfriend, who had been sitting on their towel 20 feet away the entire time, laughed nervously. Then I told him about two nearby sex clubs, all the while watching him not miss the opportunity to glance at Lisa's breasts and her spread legs, and I really liked it. He said it would be their first time, and they decided to try it during their holiday. We recommended the best club to them, and he thanked us, returning to his girlfriend. We all had a laugh discussing what they could expect and what they could try. Then I stood up and walked over to him to tell him about a few more places and give him tips, suggesting that if they wanted to know more, since they had already heard so much of us talking about sex, they could join us, and they agreed. Now let's go back to the moment when we are sitting and talking. Paul is right in front of her. The girl sat under a large beach umbrella that Paul had, 2 feet to his right. He sat exactly opposite Lisa with her legs still spread, and if she suddenly relaxed and closed them, he would gesture for her to open them again, and she would laugh and open them again. I was sitting a few feet to her left. The guy's girlfriend was sitting in front of me, and he was to my left, looking at us all. We continued talking. Paul sat under his umbrella, looked at her spread legs, and began to pleasure himself while talking to the guy's girlfriend about partner swapping and what she wanted to try. She turned out to be curious and wanted to see him with another woman. And all this time Lisa agreed and smiled, sitting with her legs wide apart, perfectly visible to Paul and me, and the guy and I continued to talk. And here we are again at the point where we are about to leave. I talk to the guy and get up to fold my chair. His girlfriend is still sitting next to Paul, who is satisfying himself. Lisa just said she needed to go to the toilet. I know what she's going to do because I see her getting up. I turn to fold my chair and continue talking to the guy we just met as we start to get ready. I hear Paul say, "Can I watch? I love watching girls pee." I begin to wonder what she will do or say, and at this moment I do not look in her direction. But I know that she is usually shy about it, although over the past few weeks she has done almost everything voluntarily and with obvious pleasure when he asked. I hope she lets him. What I didn't realize right away was that as soon as she stood up and went behind the chair to pee, Paul immediately jumped up and asked her if he could watch. When I turned around, I saw him literally standing right in front of her. I froze in place. I know he wants her. I know he wants her to please him. I wonder what she's thinking. The man who touched her breasts saw me pleasure her. Does she want more? And then she suddenly calmly looked at me, smiled, and said, "Paul is going to surprise us, dear." It was stated so simply and confidently, as if she were sharing her plans for the evening. Nothing more was required, everything became clear. I should have wondered what her words meant, but at that moment I just looked at her and tried to collect my thoughts. Later, when we were already at home, I learned that while I was distracted, something interesting happened. Paul approached her, spoke, and was clearly very determined. They exchanged a few words, and the situation became much more interesting than I expected. What's funny is that all this time I didn't realize that I was witnessing something much more intriguing. Everything happened quickly. I turned around and saw both of them on the verge of some minor but memorable action. Paul suggested we wait a bit so I could see it. Of course, I didn't even suspect such plans of theirs. However, at that moment the situation on the beach seemed so unusual and absurd that I was already completely captivated by what was happening. There were several other people around us who were also discussing something, clearly enjoying the evening. Having lost all logic, I found myself drawn into this strange obsession. Part of me wanted to just remain an observer, but the other suggested that maybe it was worth stopping all this somehow. But how to stop something that, in fact, didn't even seem like something serious? This whole moment felt like a scene from an absurd comedy, where the main characters suddenly find themselves in an absurd situation, and the only way out of it is to simply play their role. And so, when I was already completely immersed in what was happening, our small company began to get ready to leave. We looked at each other, realizing that the show was over and it was time to move on. Smiling, I helped her up. We said goodbye to the others and left the beach. At home, we discussed what had happened for a long time and laughed at how it all looked from the outside. Something about that evening was strangely magical, if a little chaotic. And even when she jokingly asked, "What if I just looked back and said, 'Who's next?'" We both realized that this thought would forever remain one of those that causes both laughter and mild bewilderment. What a day, what a sexy prostitute, the love of my life. So earlier this year, about 10 months ago, we were at Hollover Nudist Beach and met a friend, an Italian guy middle-aged. He sings at a local Italian restaurant. Nice guy. We're hanging out, and we both notice that he has what looks like a very large size. But he never gets excited, so we don't know for sure. But I like seeing it and knowing that she's looking at it. After the beach, we all head to the Fort Lauderdale beach for a drink, because he lives that way too. So we're sitting in a booth at McSorley's Irish bar, hanging out, talking. She's having fun with me, and he's fawning over her. She likes it, but won't admit it. She always gets upset with me when I tell her that all the guys like her, and that she likes attention. She tends to get defensive about it, embarrassed, as if I'm saying something bad or accusing her of something bad. This couldn't be further from the truth. I love that guys are eyeing her, flirting with hit on her, lusting after her, and love that she likes it. Maybe it was something I once said that went wrong, or maybe it was the remnants of the emotions of an idiot, a jealous ex who didn't know how to love and accept someone so sexy, sassy, and a strong woman like her. I love it. She was drinking a gin and tonic that day, and by that point they had already hit her. She was happy at camp and flirty, just like him. Keep in mind, we are in a booth right along the sidewalk. There are people in booths around us, and we are standing with our backs to the street, facing the large window in front of the bar. She's wearing shorts and a t-shirt, nothing cute, sexy, or fancy. Just a camo shirt and shorts, no nude beach underwear. He commented on how hot and sexy she was, and I fanned that flame and agreed with him. Around this time, he said something about her beautiful breasts, and I agreed. He smiled and said, "Hey, I'm jealous." We laughed, and I told him to give it a try, which he did. She was shocked, but she liked it when he fondled her big breasts in public. He looked at her face and chest with a big smile, thinking how great it was. Think about it, if we were in a less visible place, I could make them kiss, and he would kiss her breasts. And I would love it. I took some hot pictures of him grabbing her breasts. Since he first met us that day at the nude beach, I know he wanted her. And even though he's not a runway model, I think she wants him too. Anyway, since the waitress was watching our antics, I decided it was time for us to go. So we all went our separate ways, but she got his mobile number. They apparently kept in touch, and in the following months he returned to his home, which was said to be close to his family. Then, again without my knowledge, he returned to Sofla. Like I said, I didn't know she was in touch that often. So, I guess that proves my point that she liked him and wanted him. Even on the fun day I'm about to describe, I found out that she and our good friend, who we call our wife because she's our regular concert goer, went and saw him perform together at a local restaurant while I was in Vegas on business. HM. Sweet, never told me again. This proves my point that she liked him and wanted him. So fast forward to last Sunday, I was at Hollover Nude Beach just a week ago, and it was a slow, relaxing day, haven't been in almost 3-4 months. I was ready to go and enjoy, and hopefully see her get naughty with me or someone else. Will she be his willing toy? She will initiate something, or will she be his submissive bitch? And what will she allow him to do this time? Have sex with her?
Yes, I was secretly hoping he would.
Anyway, as we get ready to head out, I'm debating whether we should go to Hulover or Rooftop Resort today. Hulover would be fun, it needs a little sun, and maybe my old, slightly wicked friend will be there for me to see something juicy. But in Rooftop, you have a better chance of seeing or even participating in something like this. And so, while we are leaving the house, she says that we should go to Hulover because Frank is there. Me. Frank? Which Frank? She. Well, you know, the Italian singer Frank. Me. Oh, he's here again. She. Yes, I told you he came back. Me. I don't remember. Now I smile and think, how does she know that he is there? Does she really want to see him naked again? Does she really want to show him naked again? Maybe she needs more. I can feel the excitement starting to build in my shorts as I drive. Let's go back a minute. While we were getting ready to go out, she put on flip-flops, a blue tank top with no bra, and her tight loudmouth shorts. Sexy, but not too provocative. She was clearly already thinking about the nudist beach, since she knew Frank was there. I was more in the mood for Rooftop because I was horny and wanted to see her act lewd again. So we leave the house. I ask if she would wear her Daisy Duke jean shorts that show off her butt. This made her angry, but she reluctantly went back into the house and put on some wedges, a plain white tank top with no bra, and shorts, those shorts. Yes, my excitement is growing, and so we headed to Rooftop. When we got there, no cars, no people. It's a bummer, but we move on to plan B. We go to Hulover. Now my mind is spinning, and I'm wondering, will we see Frank? Will she be happy to see him? Glad to know he wants her body again. Would she be happy to see him naked again? Will she take him on? Will she touch him? Will it lead to pleasure or even more? What is she thinking about? What does she want? What does she expect from today? It looks like she's already thought of it all, but she hasn't told me anything. Finally, we got there and found parking crowded, but not too crowded. I love the looks of passers-by at this moment, especially the smile of the guy parked behind us who saw all this. He waved, smiled, and said, "Very sexy," as we walked by a few minutes later. I love it, and she just smiles. She never wants to admit to me that others see her and that she likes the attention. I don't know why, but my goal is to continue to give them the opportunity to see her sexy and slutty so that she can enjoy attention, desire, and feel comfortable in her sexuality, and that she owns this feeling and her power. As we stepped off the sidewalk onto the sand, she stopped to take off her wedge sandals. My excitement grows again when I see her sweet buttocks, a nice bonus for me, and for the two guys who followed us. It's funny what turns men on. In a couple of minutes, she'll be completely naked, which I love, but I think the sight of her in this outfit, with her 36C breasts bouncing freely under a thin white tank top, with her long legs in those shoes, and with her butt peeking out of her shorts, wow. This is so sexy. I really enjoy the voyeurism of a nude beach, seeing all these naked bodies, all shapes, sizes, and colors. But my two favorite moments are when they first arrive, dressed, and you can wonder what they will look like without clothes, and when they start to undress. Sometimes the clothes look promising, but the body underneath doesn't quite look right. But sometimes it's the other way around. The clothes are not impressive, but the body underneath, wow, what a surprise. So we settled down in our usual place, talked a little with a guy nearby, but he turned out to be strange, and we decided to walk around to look for her friend. We found him at the lifeguard tower, where he was nestled in a new little beach tent. We chatted, and when she ran out of beer, he offered her his. I noticed her sneaking glances at him several times. It made me wonder if that was why she was so excited to go to the beach today. When I ran out of cocktails, I took the long walk back to our chairs to pour myself another Mai Tai from the refrigerator. I couldn't even imagine that while I was gone, they were talking, and she took him and touched him between his legs. I don't know if he asked her to do it, or if she just held out her hand to shock him, to please him, or because she just wanted to feel him in her hand and show her slutty side to anyone who could see it. I wish I had seen it, but hearing about it later turned me on beyond belief. When I returned with the drink, we continued chatting for a bit. Soon she grabbed another bottle of beer, and I went back to our chairs to refill my cocktail. The whole time I was walking, I was tormented by curiosity. Was she doing something with him? Maybe she's saying something dirty to him to turn him on. Does she want something to happen today? After all, she was so insistent that we needed to find him. Hot. Or maybe she finally decided to follow through on our conversations about doing something naughty with a guy in my absence, and is now putting it into practice while I'm away. As I reached our chairs and poured myself a drink, I looked up and saw a very ugly storm heading towards us. I quickly collected all our things and headed back to his tent. When I returned to them, I was literally exhausted. The best part happened while I was gone. And again, I didn't know anything about this at the time. While I was gone, she told him that she knew that I wanted to see him have sex with her. Again, I don't know how this even came up, but I wish I had been there to see his reaction and hear her say it. Now I wonder why she said that. Because she wanted him to have sex with her? Because she wanted to shock him? Or did she want to surprise me when she told me about it later? And I kept wondering what he answered to this, and what else could have happened while I was away, and how many people saw or heard it. I like the idea that others could see her sluttiness, especially knowing that she came with me, but now she is only there with him, and they saw me leaving. It really turns me on. When I returned to them and dropped off all our things, between heavy sighs from the long and tiring journey, I told them about the approaching storm, and literally at that very second the rain began to fall. Weak at first, so we quickly put all our things in the corner of his tent, and the three of us pressed closely together. Bare leg to bare leg. We heard the beach patrol drive by and tell everyone to take cover, just as I opened our red beach umbrella to cover the side of the awning that was facing the water and other naked beachgoers so we and our stuff wouldn't get wet. Slanting rain. And so, the three of us sat, huddled together, she between us, trying not to get wet. I can already feel the effects of my Mai Tais, and they both clearly feel the effects of drinking beer. We talk about this and that, and from time to time he glances at her beautiful breasts. We are talking, laughing at the situation, and suddenly he says something like, "Well, we can always touch and kiss her beautiful breasts." It makes us all laugh, but I see the twinkle in his eyes and her big smile, and I know this is my chance to start something. I say, "Oh, of course she'll love it." And before she can say yes or no, I lean over and start kissing her breasts. He looks at her, she smiles and nods, and then he leans down and starts kissing her breasts too. At this moment, I see that she is very horny, just like me. I love to see how she gets pleasure and gives it, be it to men or women. And so she, seemingly such a calm, quiet friend, begins to lean back, as if not on the beach, but on the set of some Hollywood blockbuster. Well, you know, like in films where the heroine suddenly decides that she was born for the stage. Only here it's not a movie, but a very real beach, and her behavior, to put it mildly, is out of the ordinary. Not that she cared that someone might look under our umbrella. No, this is clearly not her problem. Rather, she even likes that there is a chance that someone will notice it. She suddenly decides that this beach is the ideal stage for a new, so to speak, social experiment. And while I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, she's already completely immersed in the atmosphere, and the rain seems to be playing along, creating that same cinematic drama. Time slows down, the world seems to cease to exist, and all that remains around us are wet spots on the sand and waves. She nods at me as if to say, "Hey, you, why not turn this into something more meaningful?" And so, as if I had fallen into a strange trap of absurdity, I find myself not just an outside observer, but also the operator of this spontaneous, very original performance. I can't say that this was the plan for the day, but the beach is not to be joked with. Something unexpected can always happen here. Of course, everything looks quite innocent. Well, if you close your eyes to a couple of details, and I sit and think, is this even legal? Or have we somehow gone into such wilds of improvisation that there is no turning back? I'm starting to wonder, maybe she always dreamed of such a turn. Who knows what's in her head? Maybe this rain was the final push that unleashed her inner artist. And I, for my part, have become a grateful viewer who doesn't even turn off the camera, so that later, perhaps, he can reconsider and understand what actually happened here. But this whole unexpected performance reaches a new level when another participant appears in our tent, a kind of random hero who clearly has long wanted to be on the beachfront. He, as if by the way, joins our discourse, and now all three of us are, watching the development of events as if at a monthly meeting of a literary club. Although, to be honest, the discussion of books has clearly faded into the background. I won't say this is a normal day at the beach. Not at all. But for some reason, the situation begins to unfold as if each of us had pre-written roles. I'm already beginning to suspect that somewhere behind this red umbrella sits an invisible screenwriter who gives us new lines and unfolds the action. It gets even funnier when it dawns on me that everyone who happens to be nearby probably guesses that there's more than just talking about the weather going on behind those umbrellas. Perhaps even they would be interested in watching this show. You know how it happens. Under their umbrellas, they are mortally bored rain, sand, gray waves. And here we are, so expressive and active. Maybe they themselves would like to be in our place, but so far they are only watching out of the corner of their eyes, as if they were random witnesses to some kind of adventure. And here I'm already starting to think, maybe this is all some kind of cunning plan, because, let's face it, who is going to put on a beach reality show on a rainy day like this? But here I stand, getting wet under an umbrella, holding a camera with one hand, an umbrella with the other, watching all this action and catching myself, not even being able to stop myself from smiling. The situation is completely absurd, but that is precisely the beauty of it. Things don't go according to plan, but that's exactly how it should be. Remember how I said that Lisa always gets embarrassed when I talk about how much she likes attention from men? Well, let's just say that this time the embarrassment clearly stayed at home, along with the bra. I'll tell you this, if I had been warned in advance that my life would begin to resemble the plot of a cheap romantic film, I might have prepared myself mentally. But no, that day it was as if the beach decided that we deserved just such a turn. So, let's go back to the moment when Lisa, Paul, and I were sitting huddled together under the awning. The rain was pattering on the beach umbrellas, and the atmosphere around was quite, well, let's just say, damp in every sense of the word. Paul apparently decided that the rain was a green light for all his hidden desires. Apparently, he was sure that as soon as bad weather begins, the laws of decency and common sense evaporate. And frankly, judging by what was happening, he was not far from the truth. Lisa, leaning towards Paul as if she was about to tell him something in secret, clearly did not plan to discuss anything about the weather. And then the most interesting moment begins. I see her hand slowly reaching towards his knee. No, it wasn't an ordinary friendly hand on a shoulder. It was a hand with a mission to check if Paul was okay on this rainy day. Well, if you thought that I was sitting here with envy or jealousy, then you are mistaken. I have long been accustomed to the fact that the beach for us is not just a place for sunbathing, but more like a playground for adults. And here it is, our game unfolds more and more brightly every moment. Paul clearly had no intention of refusing Lisa's offer. God, if someone had told me I would ever see this live, I would have thought I was being pranked. While her hand explored Paul's territory, I just stood and watched, catching the light glances of other beach visitors. Of course, they could hardly see what was happening right under the awning, but some kind of premonition was clearly in the air. You know how it happens. You sit, mind your own business, but you still get the feeling that something is going wrong somewhere nearby. And the people around us definitely felt it. And Lisa, I must say, looked quite confident. It was probably one of those moments where you think, damn, why not? Maybe at that moment her inner exhibitionist took over, or maybe she just decided it was time to put into practice the thoughts that we had discussed at home. Be that as it may, my beloved Lisa clearly enjoyed the situation, and the more she touched Paul, the less doubt there was that this was all part of her new beach version. I stood like the noble director of this strange scene, watching events unfold. Thoughts were spinning in my head. I wonder where they will go, or maybe we'll stage a real outdoor performance. All this began to resemble a cheap comedy where the characters behave as ridiculously as possible and the audience laughs, not understanding what is happening. Well, at least I definitely started to perceive what was happening as a strange comedy. And Lisa, oh, Lisa was in her element. Paul, like a child who has been given a new toy, looked at it with such admiration as if he had seen the rarest thing in the world. Frankly, this moment would have looked just as absurd if we had been secretly watched by an entire film crew. But there was no film crew. There was only the rain, Paul and his stunned face, and me, who still couldn't believe that I was watching this performance live. And here's the punchline. Lisa leans in, as if she's about to say something important, and says, "Well, don't be shy, Paul, relax, we're all friends." And then I realized that Lisa had already crossed the line beyond which there would be no more breaks. Paul, as if invited to a party with VIP access, smiled even wider. To be honest, I didn't expect Paul to be such a sympathetic guest. But here's the thing. As soon as she said this, the atmosphere became even more strange and at the same time exciting. Of course, in such a situation, I could stop all this, but why? I knew that Lisa was not doing this just for fun. She wanted to explore her boundaries, and I was there to support her. After all, what could be better than when your beloved woman reveals herself to you in a new light? Perhaps this was the moment when everything could go anywhere. The rain got heavier, the wind howled, and Paul and I, like two strange characters in a ridiculous sitcom, continued to watch as Lisa apparently decided that the beach was not just a place to relax. She wasn't just a sexy woman. She was a woman who finally accepted herself fully. And so, when everything calmed down, when the rain subsided a little, we looked at each other and began to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because we realized the absurdity of the situation. How often do you sit on the beach, under a tent, in the company of a casual acquaintance, while your beloved woman turns an ordinary beach day into a real show? Probably not very often. This day at the beach will definitely go on our list of most memorable moments. And not because there was Paul or the rain or even random passers-by who might have noticed something. Because that was the day Lisa accepted herself for who she was, and I was there to see it. And also, because it was so damn hot. Yes, this beach day will definitely not be forgotten. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.